But let us put it other way. I don't think Southeast Asia begins in Northeast India. Politicians speak like that. I think Southeast Asia perhaps ends in Northeast India. And this way, Central Asia ends Northern India. So these are geographies which cannot be bordered. If you border them, obviously the ethnic boundary gets cut off. Because a lot of Northeast India people have moved from Southeast Asia towards this part migrated, and from as well as Himalayan borderland, Tibet and other side. So this is the geography, this is their route. You cannot say they don't belong here. But earlier something used to happen, This doesn't happen. I will tell you why it doesn't happen. Is that, suppose this is a particular ethnic majority area. So if some other community comes there and settles, they are not immediately seen as outsiders. They know they have come from. But once you stay there for some time, you become one of them. You don't have to have a movement to throw them out. And that happens only when ethnic boundary and national boundary are created. No, you are outsider. You cannot enter the border. But that means what? Ethnic boundaries have their own way of assimilating people and stop othering people. Human beings are human beings, they are accepted. Northeast India has been a contrast between two histories. But why am two histories? It should be not two, it should be multiple history. What happens? History, what is history? History is about past. What is past? Past is a phase of time. And the time is a continuum. Time doesn't start anywhere, it doesn't end anywhere. So it is just a continuum. So what is past could be, what is present today could become past tomorrow, could be by transfer into history. So this continuum, when you discuss history, you have to define past, and past is only time which is a property of matter. What happens when you try to capture certain facts within that time, then there is a problem. What happens is that, as I said, history doesn't create conflicts, but history is written by historians. Historians can create conflicts. History on its own doesn't do. What I'm saying that when the British came, they came with a particular idea of history that is very European manufactured history. They are kind of, Europe geographically is very, very different. Have you ever thought of those who visit Europe? They will see in Europe hills are very low. There is no mighty mountains like Himalayas and all that. Alps perhaps is the highest. Rivers are very, very small. For us it will be like a Nala. For even the Thames River is so small, but our rivers are thick. So geographically we are different. So the kind of history they evolved, what is that history? That history has to be based on facts. Facts has to be based on evidence. But in India, if you see what history we have written, our earliest form of history were the two epics called Ramayana and Mahabharata. We are still debating whether it is true or not, whether it is, some will say no, it actually happened, some will say there is no evidence that it has happened. Most of the people of North India who are tribes, whom we call the tribes, have their own history, but they are through oral transmission. That doesn't mean this history is invalid. If that history is invalid, then half of the world, like Africa, Australia, America, they will not have any history. They will have history only from the British period, because the tribes did not write history, because they are pre-literate people. So they did not write history. And when the British came, so British came here as invaders, they stayed on, became the masters or built states around India. So they developed a concept of one history for Northeast India, for entire India. And we nationalist historians we just followed. What is that one history? Indian history starts from Indus Valley civilization, then comes from the Vedic civilization, then the interim period, then the Tripura Afghan slave dynasty, and then the Mughals, then the British, end of history. In these format we also follow in our nationalist history. That all of us have read history even in the schools. Those who, what history you read? This is the history you read. You start from Indus Valley civilization, Vedic period, and then Chandra Maurya and Ashoka, and then the Turko-Afghan, then the Mughals, and then the British, and India become independence. That is the end of history. Most of the people do not find place. Those who are marginal people, those who are that do not fall within this group, in this framework, their history is not written. Regions, for example, most of the regions, I'm not even talking Northeast India, there are prosperous regions like Gujarat, Bengal, South India, their history is not there. It is all Delhi-based history, So it is actually what in Northeast India, what I think is a contest between two histories. We are fighting against that kind of history. And remember why fighting is important? Because even our development policy is also shaped by that history. One nation, one development, this kind of thing is going on. How can there be one nation when there are so much of diversity? Why can't it be a union of multiple nationalities? Multiple nations are there. Diversity is there, inclusiveness is there, plurality is there. Why can't that be accepted? And their history should be included the way it was written in the earlier period, before the British came. In Northeast India you find, I'll just give a brief account of what is Northeast India. When the whole medieval world, the ancient world has been now decided, is no more called ancient history or ancient world, it is called Sanskritic world. Meaning, Sanskrit as a language had become so important that it spread right from Southeast Asia to Central Asia. It's not Hindu religion, by the way, it's Sanskrit-based culture, not even Sanskrit language. So that Shri Sheldon calls this history as Sanskritic world. Similarly, medieval world is no more called medieval world, it is called Persian Age world. Because we confuse it saying that Islamic world. No, Islam and Persia is not the same thing. Within Persian world, there were other kingdoms. Christian kingdom, there are Hindu kingdom. Even when Mughal was ruling there are scores of Hindu kingdom within Mughal India. So within this Persian world, medieval world has been discussed as Persian world. In this Persian world, in Northeast India we see there are two. Because see, Mughals did not come to this part of India. They came, they got defeated, and they left. But what happened was, we had a state called the Ahom state. Who are the Ahoms? The Shan tribe of Burma. They migrate from Yunnan and in China and comes back and starts a state in Upper Assam and then to Lower Assam. So in the Persian world we have a Shan state. Such diversity. That Shan state it remains a tributary of that original state, of their father state, till 1826, when the British took over. We have the counties here in Arunachal Pradesh, another Shan groups. Similarly, we have the Chutias who had a king even before the Ahom came. We have the Kacharis, we have the they had the state. We have the Khasis, we have 25 states. We have the Meiteis who had another Southeast Asian group who had a state which is neither Shan state nor Indian state. They evolved their own unique state. We have a Tripura state, a tribal state developing into a full-fledged monarchy. We have a Jaintia state. Kachari state was an itinerary state, means they were there when the Ahoms pushed them. They moved from Sadia, they moved to Dimapur. And when they Dimapur, they developed the Kachari state in Dimapur. From Dimapur, they went to Maibang, from Maibang to Taspur in Kashar. So they are carrying their state. That is why they are a moving state. In Jaintia state, what happened? It was a small zamindari under the Mughals. The Jaintias, who are actually Khasis, used to raid the state. By raiding, they captured the state and they become and take over the state. So it becomes a Jaintia state. So these are the kind of states that we in Arunachal we have the Tawang and that side Tibet and Bhutan. We have the Tibetan state. Tibetan state is a temporal state, which is where the ruler is both the religious head and as the political head. So much of diversity. So within the Persian state, we have this kind of diversity in Northeast India. That is not there. You will not find this in any history of India. Because Indian history is straight-jacketed. It is unilinear. No diversity, no inclusiveness. It is the fault of us, historians like us. We did not write it. That is why it's not written. And I am saying this is your job. You are the next generation of historians, sociologists, and politicians. You have to assert and gate crash and write that history, that our history should be written. Africans, they have started a new trend called African history. Why African history? It was already there. He said the history that has been written by the British for us, Europeans, it is Africanist history. It is not African history. It is not our history. It is our history without ourselves. So Indian history that we read, you might say it is our history, but it is without ourselves. Then what happens? Because of this framework Manipuri poet writes, at cockscrow in the morning, we find ourselves belonging to a nation. What happens when our bodies leave us behind and even our songs must lie damp in a square? They had heard about India, there is no problem. The moment India becomes a nation, suddenly we feel we belong to a nation without our endorsement. We were not asked whether we want to be a part of that nation or not. He continues, this is a very prominent Meghalayan poet called Padan Kumar. While loitering in the desolate heat from the sky, little bird shouted down from above, you are not free, not yet free. He's saying that he's not free. Because India has by that time annexed Manipur. It is not only the Manipur thing. Assamese poet writes, it was better if we had the same assertion, independence and pride than the sharply suspicious unknown aliens who descend suddenly and bring distraction, resulting in acute fright. They are worse than sly frauds. So what I am saying, the same people who admire Gandhi, Shudiram and Nehru, suddenly has changed. Nagas feel demoralized. What has happened? What has happened is the idea of nationhood. Idea of civilization is fine. It is because it is inclusive, where everybody has a part, everybody has a history. But the moment it becomes nation, nation has very, very narrow history. It is narrow thing. If you are say English nation, in English nation I have been in Ireland myself. I really don't feel in English at all. In fact, they don't speak in English in their own land. Scottish, they have forgotten their own language, but they heard this thing. They have their own accent, but they are part of England. So nation has things, that one language, one culture, one religion, but civilization doesn't have that problem. And therefore, everybody can flourish. As Mao said, let 100 flowers bloom. It's like a galactic polity. In our sky, let the hundreds, thousands, million stars bloom. And then we find in 1970s, from 1970s on, Northeast India is affected by a lot of ethnic upsurges, ethnic conflicts, bloodshed, famines. We all have experienced that. Why does it happen? There will be explanations, but from this perspective, there is a part with the explanation. I'll give the explanation from a very, very leading political scientist called Rajni Kothari. He says, a new spectre is haunting the power elite of our time. It is the spectre of ethnicity, variously expressed as assertion of cultures, communal upsurges, revivalism of religions, voices and movements of marginalized people, regions and nationalities. It represents affirmation of diversity, indigenous authenticity, of organic as against televised or museumized culture, of classical culture as found in ancient texts. He says ethnicity is a revolt against this nation state, because nation state comes with the baggage of capitalism. Nation state has the baggage of what? Republicanism, communalism, ethnicity, majoritarianism. They don't want all this, because nation brings all this, whereas civilization doesn't. Here, capitalism masquerades as modernity. It interrogates and rejects modernity projects and rejects nation state as the god of modernity. This ethnicity that is absurd that we have experienced is actually a rejection of that capitalism and that modernity. They want their indigeneity back. Therefore, ethnicity is a response and reaction to the excesses of modern project of shaping the whole humanity around the three pivots of world capitalism, state system and world culture. Just one example I want to give. If you say world capitalism, some of us say, why is he bringing world culture in? How many of us are wearing our own dresses? Some women are. Is their our haircut our haircut? Women sometimes, most of the time, are the carrier of national culture. They wear national dress, but men don't. We all wear Adidas or Bata or shoes or Peter England clothes, pants and shirts. World capitalism, our day cannot be passed without a Coke, without a Coca-Cola or a Pepsi. These are world capitalism, and we say world culture as no thing. And this is the state system. This is world culture. And this ethnic upsurge that we have witnessed till recently, it is still going on in a very, very thing form, is a response, is it reaction to the people of Northeast India towards these homogenizing thrusts. Capitalism, they want to shape everyone in one image. Everybody should look alike, everybody should talk alike, everybody should think alike. It destroys diversity. And since